All right, if everyone could find their seat, we'd like to go ahead and get started. We have a jam-packed agenda today. Okay, today is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. This is the Senate Standing Committee on Licensing and Occupations. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg. Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith.
Present.
Senator Nemus.
Present.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
All right, we have a quorum and we are duly constituted to conduct business today. The first bill we are going to consider is House Bill 566. Representative Matt Cook is the sponsor. We have a sub on House Bill 566. Do I have a motion to adopt the sub?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the sub is before us. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
State Representative Matt Cook from the 72nd District.
Jamie Eads, Kentucky Horse Racing and Gaming Corporation.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, Senators, Mr. Huffman. Appreciate you letting us be here this morning, talk about House Bill 566. Last year, we created the Racing and Gaming Corporation with Senate Bill 299, and this year we've been tasked with implementing the plan to make that work. So I'm going to break this down into three groups for you. The first is charitable gaming. I think it's fair to say that there's been that's the part that people have been most anxious about. So we've listened to their concerns. Here are a couple big things we've done. We've locked their tax fee, that structure. We have locked that in place. We've increased their board numbers to 3, and that will become effective immediately now so that they have representation. Every game that they have on July 1st, 2025, this is talking about technology. They will maintain all their technology. They just wanted to make sure that nothing could be taken away from them in the charitable venues. And then also for common school districts, can get an annual charitable gaming license, and then organizations underneath them be able to operate with that license. So picture your football boosters or band boosters, et cetera. The school district itself can get the charitable gaming license, and then everybody can operate underneath that one. So those are the big things for charitable gaming. Big part for the corporation is self-funding. Right? We want the corporation. We don't want general fund dollars going to it. So we want this to be all industry dollars. So up to 10% out of each fund can be used for the administration of this. We've staggered the board with 4-year terms, half 1 year and half the next, so you never lose the whole board at one time. It's actually a 9 and 8 breakdown. Uncashed vouchers. We had this problem. I think we all know about unclaimed pari-mutuel tickets, but we had a problem with uncashed vouchers. We needed to designate what was going to happen with them. So once again, we're continuing what we've done with sports wagering. We're giving 10% of that to go to problem gambling, 65% for backside improvements, and 25% will continue for the administration and regulation of live horse racing, which those are facilities we're meant to support in the first place. Little thing going on, I think there was going through the House, we were talking about POP certification with some of the investigators. That language says they may be POP certified coming over. This will allow the corporation to bring over the POP certified personnel that they have now with charitable gaming. It's also going to allow them to cross-train and be able to work across all the entities of the corporation, making it a much more efficient process. Third part of this is quarter horse racing. It's a big deal. We have a whole quarter horse racetrack being built in eastern Kentucky, trying to increase the number of racing quarter horses that we have in the state. I feel like this is going to be good for the entire state to get these numbers up. So we've created a pathway, and this sunsets in 3 years, but we're allowed you can purchase a pregnant mare, bring her in from out of state, and you have a pathway to make those a Kentucky bred. It also creates the registrar for that breed and creates the quarter horse racing fund. Those are kind of the big things, and if any questions from the senators, we'll be happy to answer them.
Senator McDaniel?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Representative Cook, for this. Ms. Eads, I received a phone call that you guys are down to one person in the either enforcement or investigations staff since the implementation of online gaming. Is that accurate?
No, in our division of enforcement, there are 5 individuals, a director and 4 more.
Okay, so we have a full complement of enforcement investigations.
For our enforcement team, yes.
Do we have an investigation side as well?
Our enforcement team does our
Handles them both?
investigations,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Higdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Cook, thank you for being here today. I do have one question for you, and I was, as I read the bill, I got to, after a while, I started counting them. I think I counted 35 times where you crossed out shall and put in may. Is there, I'm not sure what the reason that you don't need the shalls anymore.
Well, yes, and that's actually a trend going on with the entire House. You'll see a lot of House bills coming that way, coming from our budget staff. They're changing all the shalls to may.
Okay.
That's a standard against going through all the bills right now.
Thank you.
Senator Nunn?
Chairman Cook, thank you for this bill. I'm going to support it today. It's a good bill. It does a lot of important things. One of the things it does is it kind of puts some guardrails on the charitable gaming proliferation. Does the corporation feel like it can control that on a moving forward basis? I just have a lot of concerns about the growth there and the ability to kind of regulate that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, the corporation will still be answering to a board, and the makeup of the board includes 3 members of the charitable gaming, with charitable gaming backgrounds. It includes enforcement, some gaming people. It's a mix, and I think that the board will be fine to regulate and make that fair and equitable on both sides.
Follow-up question?
Sir.
Chair? You have the resources, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I'm just concerned about resources because, I mean, there's so many locations now. And
I think the idea would be for us to combine all of the resources. So the corporation is sort of viewed as like a stool with 3 legs, one being charitable gaming, one being racing, the other being sports wagering. And there'd be an opportunity to, cross-train people so that in far west Kentucky, we could use a charitable gaming individual or a racing person to do either or.
smart approach. Thank you.
All right, do I have any further questions? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. All right, do I have a second? All right, so we have a motion and a second on House Bill 566 as amended by PSS 1. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Higdon.
May I explain my no vote?
Please proceed.
Chairman Cook, thank you for the sub. I still have veterans groups that are burning my ear up over this, and maybe after they see the sub, they'll change their mind. But for now, based on the regular bill and the comments from them, I'm gonna vote no.
Senator Howe. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, House Bill 566 passes with favorable expression, so thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, Chairman Cook, I'm going to keep you at the table if that's okay. And while you're sitting there, why don't we go ahead and discuss House Bill 306, an act relating to the licensing of professional engineers. And please introduce yourself and your guest for the record and proceed.
Matt Cook, State Representative, 72nd District.
Amy Scarborough, representing EKU.
Tony Cole, Vice President and Business Owner for Sinez Consulting.
Thank you. Once again, I'm going to be very brief. This has been a deal that we struck with EKU and the engineers, and I'm going to let Tony here explain what we've done.
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody here today for allowing me to speak. This is both a personal and a professional, hopefully successful vote today. We've met with the engineering board and we've come to some agreements that basically state that you must have 45 hours of engineering classes, which EKU currently exceeds, in order to be eligible for the routing going through the professional engineering route. Again, it doesn't mean that you are licensed, it just means that you're eligible to take the test. Then the second thing is that they added 2 additional years of experience, so they require 6 years of experience postgraduate versus 4 years, which is common in many other states. So that was an agreement that we made and that we felt was a good idea. And then just as a personal note, I graduated in 1993 from EKU, and I've waited 32 years for this to come through. So I appreciate your consideration for this. And as a business owner who is headquartered here in Lexington, Kentucky, and the only one that offers fire protection engineering services in the tri-state area, which is 30 minutes from EKU, from my business perspective, this is hopefully potentially a huge win for my company. So for that, I also want to thank you.
All right. Do I have, well, first of all, thank you. I know there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into this compromise, and I know that, very rarely do you have a compromise where everybody's happy, and this is one where everybody's happy. So at this point, I do have one question. Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I understand correctly, right now, you can get a license to pull a fire protection permit without these requirements, so long as you pass some kind of an exam. Is that correct? And does this? I know some folks back home who are in the fire protection industry who aren't necessarily professional engineers, but who can pull permits and things like that. What does this do to that, to kind of the existing framework?
Nothing, because that falls under the NICET requirement as a fire protection contractor. So that is a different route than the professional licensure. So in that case, you would pull a permit to maybe install a kitchen hood system over a fryer. It doesn't affect that whatsoever. This is
these
purely
are folks that do sprinklers and stuff like that in commercial structures.
Same thing. That's correct. That's under the NICES route, and it's not has nothing to do with this route. They would still continue to be able to do the same thing.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, do I have a motion on House Bill 306? All right, I have a motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, congratulations. House Bill 306 passes with favorable expression.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
all.
Thank you so much.
All right, next up on our agenda, we're going to start back at the top. House Bill 437. This is an act relating to alcoholic beverage control administrators and investigators. This is sponsored by Representative Tony Hampton. Okay, we have a sub. Please introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Tony Hampton. I represent the 62nd District, Scott County.
Okay.
I'm Gracie Kelly. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Kentucky League of Cities.
Pat Morgan with the Kentucky Sheriff's Association.
I'm Sean Butler. I'm the Executive Director for the Kentucky Police Chiefs Association.
It looks like a lot of peace and love at the table, so please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of this committee. I appreciate the opportunity to present House Bill 437, a measure that brings needed clarity and consistency to the enforcement of Kentucky's alcohol laws. ABC administrators and investigators play a critical role in ensuring compliance with our state's alcohol regulations. House Bill 437 reaffirms their important work while making a clear distinction between administrative enforcement and law enforcement authority. Specifically, this bill states that local ABC administrators and investigators do not have the power to make arrests unless they are certified under POPs. This policy aligns with existing standards for law enforcement across the state and ensures that only those who have met the necessary training and certification requirements are authorized to make these arrests. At the same time, it preserves the investigative and regulatory functions ABC officials, allowing them to continue their essential oversight role. The committee sub makes a small but important adjustment to grandfather in ABC administrators in a consolidated local government who were in place before this bill will take effect. I'm happy to answer any questions, and so are these folks.
Okay, I have a motion, a second on the bill, and I have two questions. Senator Chambers Armstrong? We adopted the sub.
Sub addresses my concern, but I represent part of Bardstown Road now, and I represented all of Bardstown Road when I was on Metro Council. And I know, given the high density of establishments with 4 a.m. liquor licenses, ABC officers and law enforcement officers worked really closely hand in hand, and it took every resource we could possibly have to be able to address that high density of late night liquor license establishments. My understanding is that most ABC officers who are now being hired are going through the process to become sworn peace officers, so they will still have powers of arrest under this law. Am I correct about that? Is that pretty standard in a city like Louisville if they are hiring ABC officers who are going to be out working hand in hand with law enforcement, that they are going through the process and becoming sworn officers?
So if they become POP certified, they will have arrest powers. Get further.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes, they do become POP certified in a city of your size.
Senator Higdon?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. 2 questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One, I guess the first question, this bill, is there a problem across the state where we have non-POP certified individuals arresting people over alcohol violations? I had never heard of that happening, but is that a problem?
This bill's primarily just cleanup bill to just make sure the standards are the same for all those who are not POP certified, that they don't have those arresting powers.
Okay. And then on a couple of times in here, but on page 11, it talks about a licensee authorized to sell spirits can sell them on Sunday. Don't they have to get a separate license to sell on Sunday? Does this eliminate a license?
I don't think that section's necessarily meant to be impacted by the bill, but we can double check on that and get back to you, Senator.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because like I said, there is, am I correct that right now you can buy a license so you can sell on Sunday? It's a separate license.
I think you're correct on that, Senator. I think it goes back to home rule, and the city is going to have to pass an ordinance to allow you to get those. I remember we used to have like a 2 o'clock license, and then I believe Louisville has 4 o'clock license. So I think it's up to the city to end up passing where your license is going to go.
I know ABC's monitoring us today and watching, so I'm sure they'll let us know if that be the case. Thank you.
Senator McDaniel?
Yeah, mine kind of ties into Senator Higgins, Madam Chair. And this is in the sub, and he's exactly right. It says that if you have a license to sell retail on Sunday, then this grants you the ability to sell by the drink on Sunday. So it's kind of an expansion of that, I think. But I'm not a spirits person, so I'm kind of trying to understand what we're doing with those 2 paragraphs at the end. Can you guys help us with that?
Which part of the sub?
If you look at page 11 and page 13, it talks about, it's the same wording, one for distilled spirits, one for malt beverages, saying if you're authorized for retail, you can now do it by the drink on Sunday.
We will check into that and get back with you. That was not the intent to expand that from our amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I can put some context into that, Senator McDaniel. This was an addition by Senator Givens relative to one facility in his county that he requested that to be placed in. Senator Higdon, do you have a follow-up?
Well, staff, excuse me, staff says that you still have to have a Sunday license, so I'm sure we'll get that cleared up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You do. You have to have a license. All right. If there are no further questions, I have a motion and a second on House Bill 437 as amended by the sub. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong.
Madam Chair,
Please proceed.
I'm going to switch microphones because I think this one is not working so well. I'm going to vote yes today. However, I do want to do a little research and make sure this won't have unintended consequences for the ABC officers in Louisville, because they are such a crucial part of our law enforcement operations around our late night liquor establishments. And that's really a very uniquely Louisville situation to have such a high density of those 4 a.m. liquor licenses. So I don't think that it's going to impact our ability to address those situations, but I do want to reach out to some folks and do some homework. So I'm voting yes today, but I reserve the right to change my vote on the floor. Thank you.
Senator Berg. Senator Douglas.
I've been explaining my vote as well.
Please proceed.
I too, like Senator Chambers Armstrong, I'm going to vote yes today, but I still have a little bit more investigating that I need to do, especially regarding the sale by the drink. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, House Bill 437 as amended by committee sub passes with favorable expression. Do I have a motion on the title amendment? Second. All right, I have a motion and second on the title amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much for being here, and I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and committee.
Okay, next up, we have House Bill 39. This is sponsored by Representative Amy Neighbors. All right, introduce yourself for the record and please proceed.
Amy Neighbors, State Representative, District 21.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Derek Lewis, State Rep, 90th District.
I'm going to begin by letting Representative Lewis give some background information on this bill.
Absolutely. So as Madam Chair, you and I serve on Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee, and we often times have challenges throughout the year, maybe sometimes we don't expect. As Madam Chair is aware, we did have interpreter language that came through that dealt with their credentialing going back to being nationally recognized, is how our statute puts it. The instance in question had stopped being nationally recognized around 2017. However, it was just now brought to our attention. So I started working on this bill. I thought I had great language. Representative Neighbors had a constituent in her district that was affected by this. There's about 550 roughly people. These are interpreters in our schools. But anyway, I thought I had great language, and so I was like, yeah, Representative Neighbors, I'm working on this. I'd love to work with you. People didn't like my language, but they liked hers, and so we worked together as we are prone to do, but I'll let her explain the bill.
Okay. So as Representative Lewis mentioned, this bill was brought to my attention by a constituent back home who is also a sign language interpreter. Her concern when she called me last fall to discuss the legislation was the shortage of interpreters for our school systems across our state. So through many conversations with her and other stakeholders, such as the Kentucky Registry for the Deaf, we came up with this solution to create a third type of interpreter's license for educational interpreters. We believe this third type of license will help the shortage and will be less burdensome for this type of interpreter to obtain. The third license would also protect our deaf consumers and hiring entities by clearly identifying the skill sets that a licensee has demonstrated on a national level assessment. Hiring entities are often confused by the differences between the types of qualifications and certifications available. The third license, administered by the Kentucky Board of Interpreters, would allow experts in the field to determine the qualifications needed to work successfully in an educational setting and allow consumers of services to easily identify interpreters that have specialized in educational interpreting versus interpreters who work in a wider variety of settings. Madam Chairwoman, that concludes my remark on this bill, and if there's no questions.
Thank you. I have Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you can help me understand, is this a separate license from the existing license, or is this kind of a sub-license? Like you have to get one and then get the other?
It is my understanding this is a separate license that is strictly for those interpreters who wish to work in an educational setting, such as K through 12 schools.
So is it a lower standard to which they're held to work in this environment, or what? I don't understand how, if we're going to add a license, it's going to help get more people into the schools.
Sure, Senator. So on the school interpreter, it was dealing with the type of testing stop being nationally recognized. Of course, with interpreters, you can go on and get advanced degrees. So I guess I would say it's more of a base level, but also to make sure that the needs of our education system are still met while still maintaining the ones that wanted to go on and further their degrees.
You want to follow up?
I do, but so are we saying that right now, to interpret in the K-12 system, are you required to be licensed right now?
Yes.
So you have to have kind of this higher standard of a license, and what you're saying is you can do lesser things. I mean, because you're not interpreting a lot of technical stuff, I'm assuming, right? You don't have to. Is that what we're trying to get at here? And this allows you to meet the licensure requirement that currently exists for K-12?
So the regulation that was proposed, I believe there was 3 different ways that they could be credentialed, so to speak, on testing types. The one that we were focusing on, they were going to do away with, and part of the regulation process, they were actually going to grandfather those in. However, they were concerned, people across the state, about 500 of them were concerned about no longer having access should they do away with the testing measure that was no longer nationally recognized as of 2017.
One last one.
Do you have any more questions?
One last one.
Sure.
And I'm assuming, has KDE weighed in and they're okay with this, what we're doing? Have they weighed in at all?
I'm not aware of anybody that currently opposes. They did it first. The people across.
You'll have that.
My language.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Nemes?
Yes, I'm still wavering on this. My granddaughter is getting a degree at EKU for translation, and she teaches in their school. She's learning to educate. So is this just translation in the school, or is this teaching in the school for deaf children?
Just be translating, as far as I'm aware, Senator.
And the certifications, they're from who? You're having trouble having translators, or you're having trouble having teachers teach to deaf students, or are also teaching sign language. There's a distinction between all of this. So what does this actually do?
This license would be for sign language interpreters only. This would not be for teachers teaching.
So how's the student taught? They're taught by a regular teacher, but they're at times need an interpreter. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Senator Howe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just following up on something that in your discussion with Senator McDaniel, you kept talking about tying it back to national standards. I know in a lot of this space, there are certain federal requirements that we have. Is any of that involved in this, or are we just trying to have more of a uniform standard that matches what other states do?
Your mic was cutting out a little bit, but no, it wouldn't affect federal as far as I'm aware. Essentially, the license, what we've been going off of the past several years, the board is wanting to do away with, because per our statute, if a testing measure is not nationally recognized, we can't use it for that purposes. So it was in statute. It was pretty rigid, and that's the reason for the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, seeing no further questions, Senator Berg?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And you just said something that confused me. So this third tier that we're talking about for our K through 12 will still meet nationally recognized standards, correct? Or no? We're taking those standards away.
It's a testing measure that no longer met national standards back in 2017, but for the classroom setting, it was deemed to be sufficient for that. But that being said, you still have other advanced degrees within that and advanced certificates, so it wouldn't affect that, while we could still have people in our schools that would be suitable to interpret for our kids.
A follow-up, please.
Yes.
So the standards for the interpreters in the schools changed. Is that what you're saying? The 2017, that standard is no longer applicable? So then what's our new standard? What standard do you have to meet to be able to work here? I don't understand. Is it a nationally recognized standard? Is it a locally recognized standard? What standard are we proposing is my question.
So what we're going off of is the educational interpreter performance assessment. That is what we've always used essentially. In 2017, that was no longer nationally recognized. However, it's still being used and people still use it. It was brought to our attention, though, that this year the board wished to go away from that, and that we're going to use it across the board using the other testing measures. But this is the one specifically we're talking about that we've essentially used. I don't know how long it's been in existence, but yeah.
One more follow-up?
Sure.
And we are replacing those standards with what? That's my question.
Sure. So, no, we're just keeping the educational interpreter performance assessment alone as it stands. We're just keeping that, adopted what we're already using.
Yeah, and if I'm speaking correctly, we're going to keep those same standards so that we don't disenfranchise all of those interpreters that are currently working in our schools. Like, we were looking at kind of a workforce shortage and a real desert as far as being able to help these kids because of the way that the national standards have progressed. Am I correct in saying that?
Much better than myself, Madam Chair.
Yeah, so this is just a way to keep that workforce in place and then also complying with these higher national standards. Okay, I have a motion on House Bill 46. No, House Bill 39, and I have a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong, Senator Berg, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Higdon, Senator Howe, Senator Mays Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel, Senator Meredith, Senator Nemes.
Explain my vote.
Please proceed.
I'm a very reluctant aye, and most likely would be a no on the floor. I need to look into this further because I'm not so sure of this. Thank you.
Senator Nunn, Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, House Bill 39 passes with favorable expression. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, next up, House Bill 46, an act relating to the identification of lottery winners. Representative Kim Banta. I see my old babysitter is coming to the table with you. Not that I'm dating us or anything, but she did used to babysit for us, or for me. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kim Banta, 63rd District, and I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves.
Ellen Williams, Kentucky Lottery. And Ellen Hessen, Kentucky Lottery.
Many of you have heard this bill before. You are allowed to be anonymous if you win $1 million or more. That's it. Motion on the bill, please. This is year 5. Thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second on the bill. I have one question, Senator Higdon.
Representative Banta, have you experienced this $1 million?
No, sir, I have not.
I didn't know if this was from experience and you wanted other people not to have
Absolutely
the same
not.
amount of
That
fun.
would be an ethics violation. No.
Thank you.
Senator Howe?
Yes, ma'am. Just a point of clarification, Ms. Hessen. You babysit for the chair's children, not her. Is that correct?
Thank you very much.
Just wanted to clear that up because there was no way that we were going to hang you with that. Thank you.
I really appreciate that.
All right, seeing no further comments from the committee, I have a motion and a second on House Bill 46 already. So, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong, Senator Berg, Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Higdon, Senator Howe, Senator Mays Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel,
Aye.
Senator Meredith, Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right. Thank you all for being here. Your bill passes with favorable expression.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Okay, it looks like we're getting down to the end. I have House Bill 72. This is an act relating to limited X-ray machine operators. This is sponsored by Representative DJ Johnson. If you could introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is DJ Johnson, State Representative, 13th District, and I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves.
My name is Angie Stewart. I'm the Director of Operations for OrthoCincy.
My name is Kelly Holden. I'm in-house counsel for OrthoCincy.
My name is Tom Underwood. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Podiatric Medical Association.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. I'm here this morning to present to you House Bill 72. House Bill 72 modifies KRS 311B-020, which deals with qualifications and activities concerning medical diagnostic imaging professionals, including, among others, limited X-ray machine operators. House Bill 72 does two things. One, it amends the statute to allow limited X-ray machine operators to operate their equipment in the same facility as other imaging technicians, other imaging equipment. Currently, they're not allowed to be in the same facility. And the second thing it does is very specifically identifies and limits the scope of practice for these X-ray machine operators.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I have one question, Senator Berg.
Thank you again, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you guys for bringing this bill. I have actually, if I'm allowed, a couple of questions. Who requested this bill?
Originally, several years ago, it was requested by a medical practice in my district who had an X-ray machine operator working their machine, and then when the original language in 2012 went into effect, one day she was legal to operate in the same facility as the other technicians. The next day she wasn't, and the practice had a choice. They had a couple of choices: fire her, move the equipment to a new facility, or be out of compliance. So they brought this to me as a concern that they just wanted to have cleaned up. Since then, I have met with these ladies and Mr. Underwood, who have brought to my attention concerns that are across the state about this particular issue.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
What is the difference in educational requirements for a limited X-ray tech versus a certified registered radiographer?
I will defer to my guest for that.
It depends on the schooling, honestly. It depends on the institution that you're getting the licenses from. So you could have an associate's degree in radiologic technology. That's a 2-year program.
2-year.
There is a bachelor's degree also, so that's a 4-year. And then the LXMO can be done a couple of different ways. So it can be done as a self-taught through a school, like a online almost. And then there is a couple of schools that used to offer it in Kentucky that also had a 2-year educational piece.
Are they still around?
I'm not sure that they are because of this, the way that this is.
You finished?
Can I make a statement?
Please.
I've had I'm a diagnostic radiologist, so I work with X-ray technologists intimately, and have for over 40 years. And I have had absolutely nobody reach out to me in favor of this bill, and many, many people reach out against it. Because the concern is that you are putting people with a very, very limited scope of practice, extremely limited scope of practice, into a hospital setting where we expect these radiographers to have a much, much broader scope of practice. So the questions are twofold. I mean, first, what would be their purpose and how do you recognize their limitations in that setting? And second of all, what do you do with your educational programs where these people are not allowed to supervise our rad tech students, but are still going to be perceived as being in that role since they're in the same environment? I mean, if I could make a statement, limited rad technologists belong in the outpatient setting, They operate one type of machinery. We do not have a need for their services in acute care settings, and we do not want it. Thank you.
So I am also a rad tech. I have been for 29 years. I politely disagree with you. So I do work in an outpatient setting, but we have an absolute need for them. The reason that we are unable to have them is because we have fluoro machines and MRI machines in our practice. But there's just not enough rad techs to go around. And I'm only asking for them to be able to run an x-ray machine. I wouldn't put them in a fluoro room. I wouldn't put them to run an MRI, just like I wouldn't have an MA doing physical therapy on a patient.
Senator Douglas?
Madam Chair, my question was asked and answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any further questions? Senator Meredith?
Certainly appreciate the discussion and understand your rationale for this bill. The question I'd have is, what happens, are there any safeguards in place to keep a limited x-ray tech from doing the procedures that people are concerned about them doing? How is that controlled?
Well, it's the same as we have every position within our office. It has a scope of practice, and everyone knows what their role is within that. So an MA is not going to do a surgery. A physician, we have physicians and then we have surgeons. They're not going to, our physician is not going to do a surgery if they're not licensed or trained in that.
I appreciate that, and I'm going to vote for this bill, but my concern is with the corporatization of medicine in the pursuit of profit, that in a scenario where you have limited personnel, someone can say, you're not trained for this, but we want you to do this, and we'll do some on-the-job training to fill this role. And I'm not sure those safeguards are in place, but I think the example you gave, particularly the shortage of personnel across the spectrum, that these people have a role in the type of facility that you're speaking to, but I do have some concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Howe?
Thank you. Just working through this, unlike my colleagues, I don't have a background in this area. But as I understand this statute very much excludes a limited x-ray operator from doing a fluoroscopy or some of these areas. It just allows them to be in the physical location where these things are done so that they can do the things that they are authorized to do. Is that is my understanding correct on that?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, do I have a motion on, House Bill 72. Do I have a second? Second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg.
I'd like to explain my no vote. If this bill had specifically limited x-ray techs to an outpatient environment, I may have been okay with it. But to be honest, I do not see in my hospitals where if these people are employed, they are not going to be sent up to the ICU to take portable chest x-rays on patients with lines and tubes coming out of every orifice, on machines that they have never worked on or been trained on, because we do not use stationary equipment on any of our patients in the hospital anymore, unless you're an outpatient. You're putting these people in an environment where they have no purpose. Now, in your outpatient environment, they may have a purpose. Limit the bill to that. Thank you.
Senator Douglas.
Explain my I vote.
Please proceed.
I have very similar concerns. I have very similar concerns, but my time was spent primarily in an outpatient office. We can't legislate honesty. I say that over and over and over and over. We just can't. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to put guardrails or open up some guardrails. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howe.
Aye.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Cast my vote and explain.
Please proceed.
Madam Chair, I'm going to pass just now. Representative Johnson did reach out to me last night. I do appreciate that, with an offer to explain. I thought I understood exactly what I was looking at with this deal, but out of deference to Senator Berg and her experience, I'm just going to dig a little deeper so I really understand. But I appreciate the reach out. It goes a long way. Thank you, sir.
And I'll be glad to discuss it with you. I've got some input from the Kentucky Hospital Association that we could discuss.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Meredith. Aye. Senator Nemus.
Explain my vote.
Please proceed.
I have an aye vote, and still have some qualms with it, but I called Representative Johnson last night, and page 2 does pretty much clarify it. Senator Berg, Senator Meredith have legitimate questions. I do have something. My wife is a retired rad tech, and if you're short, please call her because that honeydew list is growing. I'm an aye vote.
Do not be surprised if you're taken up on that offer, Senator.
Senator Nunn. Aye. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, so House Bill 72 passes with favorable expression. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, committee members.
Okay, next up, we saved the best for last. House Bill 79. This is sponsored by Representative Kim Mosier. We have a committee sub on House Bill 79. Do I have a motion on the sub? Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the sub is adopted, and please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been a lot of fun getting to hear all of the testimony this morning. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I'm Kim Mosier, State Representative of the 64th District. I'll pass it off to my guest to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Dale Bertram. I'm a professor of marriage and family therapy at Campbellsville University.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thanks. House Bill 79 is really a simple bill. It addresses Kentucky's healthcare workforce shortage. Right now, we know that we have a lot of folks who have retired or are no longer working in the healthcare work fields, but they are licensed. And so all this does is allows the professional licensure boards to capture the data as to whether someone is not only licensed, but are they still working in their field. So we can't really address the healthcare workforce shortage until we know who is actually working in healthcare. And so that's all this does. And then there is a second section of this bill that adds a provision that marriage and family therapists who are licensed in another state will be recognized in Kentucky if they meet all of their requirements. And this is including completion of postgraduate education required by all states. And it also puts in place a timeline, kind of a shot clock for these licensure boards to get these people licensed, because as I understand it, that is lagging behind.
Motion on the bill.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion and a second. I just want to make a comment that this is really needed. I hear all the time people say, well, I went on the website and they say that they have all of these people who can accept me as a patient, and they're all retired or they're no longer practicing. And so we don't really have a good idea of what our workforce looks like in many of these specialized areas. So I really appreciate the bill. Senator Higdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And do you mind explaining the difference between the original bill and the sub? I'm just now seeing the
yes, I'm
committee
sorry.
sub.
I should have done that. So all the sub does, it clarifies an error that didn't really lay out that this was applicable to both in-state and out-of-state marriage and family therapists. So the time frame that we put in place, kind of that shot clock, is applicable to both in-state and out-of-state marriage and family therapists.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any further questions? All right. Do I have a motion on House Bill 79 as amended by committee sub? All right, do I have a second? All right, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg.
Aye, and thank you guys very, very much. This bill, both parts, include things that really need to be done in the state, so I very, very much appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Senator Douglas.
Madam Chair, I guess I have one question I needed to ask before I say my vote, and I know I should have done that.
We will allow you the latitude. How does that sound?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I'm sure your babysitter appreciates that as well. When we talk about active practice, have we set a number of hours that they're practicing, or we just simply say they're not practicing at all? When we look at taking data on who is practicing and who is not. I'm trying to get some clarification on.
Yeah, so what this is looking at, the workforce participation, it would include the degree level, employment type, employment specialty, employment setting, and then the employment status does look at whether somebody is actively employed in their respective field. It also looks at active employment in a clinical setting, whether or not somebody is actually working in a clinical setting or by telehealth. So, we want to try to differentiate who's working via telehealth as well. And then looking at if someone is a retired nurse and they are now a legislator, they are not actively participating in that clinical setting. And so what are they doing? So, and I'm sure there are a lot of us.
Thank you, Representative Mosher.
So
that really answers my question. And I'm an aye, and thank you for the latitude, Madam Chair.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Aye.
Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith.
I'll explain my vote, Madam Chair. I'm a no on this bill. Because despite its best intentions, I see it as another exercise in futility. We collect volumes of data. Each year we receive reports from LRC that are legislative mandated that go into a black hole that we never see any results from, we don't take action upon. And that frustrates me to no end. We need to act on the things that we already know, and we don't do that. For example, 40% of our population lives in rural Kentucky. Only 17% of our primary care physicians are there. Shortage of physicians. But we have a bill sitting over the House that would add more physicians to that complement by having a DO program started at East Kentucky University that's just kind of sitting there. Secondly, we are 49th in trauma-related deaths in Kentucky. We know that. What are we doing about it? Absolutely nothing. 20% of our rural hospitals have identified as potentially closing in the next 3 to 5 years. What are we doing about that? Nothing. 30% of our healthcare dollars are spent on the administration of healthcare, double what other industrialized nations are doing. That's reliable data. What are we doing about reducing that? As a matter of fact, with this action, we're going to add some additional expense to it. It's impossible to find a pediatric dentist in rural Kentucky. What are we doing about that? If you want to kill a good idea, if you want to see something go into a black hole, either appoint a task force, establish a committee, or collect more data. I've heard that ever since I've been here. We need more data. We don't need more data. We need action, and I'm not seeing it. So again, I'm a no to collecting more data until we can have some tangible results to address the problems that we know exist in Kentucky. Thank you.
Senator Nemes.
Aye.
Senator Nunn. Chair Rocky Adams.
Aye. All right, so House Bill 79 passes with favorable expression. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any further business from the committee? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.